Good evening and welcome to the Schmidt House podcast. I'm your host, Zach. Tonight, I'm going to be talking with Jesse Johnson, who is the owner of Without Papers Pizza. His Calgary restaurant was shut down back in 2021 because of his refusal to check customers' vaccine statuses during the medicine times. His charges have since been dropped in 2023. And he is currently suing the city of Calgary, the province of Alberta, and Dina Hinshaw. So lots to talk about there on that front. I'll be bringing him on in just a short second here. Subscribe to the Schmidt House Post on Substack for $5 a month or $50 for the year. A new article came out this past Friday. It's titled Sask Election. I have it it's kind of, I guess, dated since, we know the results of what happened, but I kind of gave just information about what my predictions and stuff like that, my thoughts on the election. So it's free to read if you want to check that out. And so if you want to support the show and like to read things, it's a great way to do that by supporting me on Substack. The t-shirt of the month for October here is actually a hoodie. So if you want entered in to win the Schmidt House hoodie, you can do so by sending a Rumble rant of $5 or more. Monthly supporters on Rumble will get an automatic entry to that draw. And tonight is the last night to be able to get entered in to win this one. I will be making the draw on the first stream in November, so next Tuesday. And I'll be reading those Rumble rants at the end of the stream. The t-shirt of the month is also coming to an end. So I'll have something else to kind of loosely replace it on that one, but I'll let you guys know in November what that's going to look like. Now, if this is your first time checking out the show, thank you so much for taking the time out of your evening to hang out here and listen to Jesse and I have a conversation. Please subscribe, share the show with your friends if you like what you hear. And now let's bring on Jesse Johnson. Good evening, sir.
Good evening. How are you?
I'm doing not too bad. Do you want to maybe just give a quick introduction on yourself for those who might not know who you are?
Of course. My name is Jesse Johnson. I owned Without Papers Pizza in Calgary, Alberta. In 2021, my restaurant was shut down for refusing to enforce the vaccine passport. Since then, I've become a political dissident and a favorite of the talk shows.
That's you can see like these kind of little pockets of people that have kind of hit the wall where they're kind of fed up with everything, more specifically on Twitter, where their content gets a lot spicier. So I like seeing that stuff coming out of you. Obviously, you've been through a lot through this process and are really honestly just fed up with the whole system. So I think there's a lot of people that are getting there and finding their way over to the dissident sphere and wanting government accountability for sure. So, but I did want to first open up before we get into lots of that type of stuff is get into how you got into the pizza business. How did you start out making pizzas and how did you ultimately turn it into the business that you have?
In my 20s, I was working at the Bank of Montreal, and I was doing loans and mortgages and stuff like that there. And then I ended up working at a friend of my dad's restaurant, and he had a business partner named Angelo Contrada, and we ended up becoming friends. And then in 2001, we opened up our first restaurant together. It was called Sugo Cafe Italia. It was critically acclaimed and the foodies' darling. We were written up in En Route magazine as being best new restaurant, and we were farm to table before anybody knew what that was. But that restaurant was sort of a feast or famine type thing. We would go in on a Saturday and do 2 covers, 100 seats, and then on Monday we would do 0. And it was really a heartache, and we made it mostly through blood, sweat, and tears. And then in 2011, after 10 years of really working hard at that restaurant, we decided that, it's time to branch. We've got some opportunities. And we're like, well, what are we going to do? And so it was a couple of walks, and we was like, well, I guess we better make pizza. And this space came up literally right next door to Sugo, and we took it over, and it was an instant success. We were an institution in Calgary for over 10 years, a tremendous success. We had 60 seats on a Friday. I would serve 300 customers, and we'd make 500 pizzas. We ran that for 10 years. And then all of a sudden the apocalypse came along, and here we are.
Mm-hmm. Where were you located in Calgary?
We were in Inglewood.
Inglewood. Okay.
So for those of you who are familiar with Calgary, that's just outside the downtown core, right next door to the library. And it was really a rough neighborhood when we went in. Not rough, I don't want to say rough, but it hadn't been gentrified yet. And then in the
It's
course
kind of
of our time
hipstery
there,
now, isn't it? And they're doing lots of renovations. I was in Calgary over the summer, and I met my sister for lunch in that area. So yeah, no, it's a neat little area. It's kind of, I don't really know how to describe it. I'm from Regina, so we don't really have anything cool like that. I love going to Calgary, although it's changed a lot in the last little bit here. It's kind of the NDP and the the mayor has not done a good
yeah,
job in
beautiful
that city.
Inglewood turned into an NDP stronghold. It became
Mhm.
a woke cesspool. It
Yeah.
really broke my heart. I love that neighborhood.
Yeah, yeah, Spalumbo's deli there. Yeah,
Yeah, friends of
awesome
ours.
area. So yeah, okay, so that kind of got you to when everything went crazy. What made you want to start defying the COVID mandates? Was it strictly just a business decision, or was there, you're starting to notice things where I'm like, this doesn't, you're like, this doesn't really make sense. I got to start pushing back on it. How did that whole start of COVID work?
Well, I'll never forget the day. It was March 16th, 2020. I started the day with 30 employees, and by the end of the day, I had 10. And for 18 months, we literally went through lockdown, brief opening, lockdown again, masks, lockdown. And the government likened going to a restaurant akin to visiting a leper colony. The weed store was open, Walmart was open, Costco was open, but every single restaurant in Canada was open. And so I watched my beautiful restaurant, this thing of pure energy, chi, vibration, just all of a sudden turn into a takeout joint, and me handing pizzas to zombies, skip the dishes drivers and like, here you go, 7732, and here you go, 4178, and it slowly broke me. And by the time the vaccine passport came out, I had enough. I honestly, I couldn't take it anymore. And, there's not one single reason why I spoke out. I would say that fear would be the first one. I was worried that they're going to make me do something that I don't want to do in order to operate my business. Second, I thought it was illegal what they were doing. And third, I was like, you want me to do what now? You want me to stand at the front door of my restaurant and turn away healthy customers because you say they're dirty? You know what I mean? Because they're the exact same as me? I don't think so. I said a message of love, and it was received with the most vile hate I've ever seen in my whole life. I said, we accept all, may they be vaccinated or unvaccinated, as being equal in their humanity and afforded the same dignity and equity as such. We will not be in compliance of City of Calgary bylaw 65M2021. That single paragraph literally set my life in another direction. It resulted in our closure. And it shocked me. It broke me to my core, to be honest with you. That restaurant was like my pride and joy. I loved it when I should have been loving other things. I devoted every thought to it. Every minute of the day was just like, how can we make this place better, and how can we be able to sell more pizzas, and how can we be even cooler? They literally destroyed it, and I couldn't take it anymore. So I spoke out, and I thought that I would be literally number 600 in line. It was so obvious to me that this was patently wrong against the very ethos of my profession. And I thought that there would have been many, many restaurants that it was spoken out before me. But I realized, or failed to realize at the time, that every restaurant in Canada was essentially held hostage by the government. Each one of us forced into debt. Literally they took our customers away, and then a week later it's like, you want a loan, bro? We got some money for you, and every single restaurant took it. They were all duped by their accountants and the banks who literally gave them away. It was the easiest application I'd ever gone. I literally wrote my name, my business name, and my position within that. Boom. You know what I mean? Like, here's 60 grand, and you only got to pay back 40 grand, bro. You know what I mean? Like, don't worry about the rest of it. And it's interest free, right? Well, lo and behold, here we are. It's 3 years later, and literally 83% of the restaurants in Canada still owe that money, most likely in its entirety. It's now been rolled over into a loan with the whatever bank distributed it, and you pay an interest on that, and you're going to be paying interest on that until the day you close, because CRA does not give a shit about you. They would rather you starve and just waste away in the street rather than help you, and they will destroy your business. They will come for their money, and they will. They're more. You'd have been better off had you gotten that loan from the Hells Angels. At least they have morals and scruples and values.
Yeah.
So they introduced it on the 20th. On the 20th, I said I wouldn't do it. And then for 3 weeks, we were literally holed up in that restaurant, shooting pizzas out the window like we were Bonnie and Clyde. And then the last day, I didn't realize, but I was holed up in there with Sid Frazard from Rebel News, and we were waiting for them to come. We were expecting it, and there was a freedom rally that day in Calgary, and I had expected that a great multitude of them were going to come and save me, or whatever it was that I was expecting. It was the most surreal experience. I don't know what I expected, but nobody came, and I at that moment I realized, like, I'm going to lose everything because I want to accept everyone. And my brain melted, and my buddy took me for a ride, and I was like, you know what, let's just go to my house. And we got to my house, and I took a nap. I was sleeping in the restaurant the night before. I'd woken up that morning. People were throwing eggs in my windows and stuff. It was crazy. So I went back to my house to take a nap, and I'd been told by some friends that were on the force to not leave the restaurant. And that's why I was sleeping there, because if I left, they were going to arrest me. And so all of a sudden I saw the flashing lights outside the window, and I was like, damn, Jesse, like, why did you leave, you stupid idiot, right? I get to the door, the cops are there, and I was like, listen, I just want to go to the washroom before we go to jail. Can I just go to the washroom, right? The guy's like, oh, no, bro. Like, like we're not here to arrest you, right? I'm like, oh, like, what are you here for, Oh, we're just here to make sure that you ain't going to kill yourself, because, like, we just shut down your restaurant and confiscated all your assets. And your business life is over now, my brain melted, and I headed straight to Windermere, where I am now, and opened up Pow Pizza.
That's a crazy story. Did you ever expect to be living in Canada in such a state?
I never in my wildest dreams would have imagined that I would wake up on Monday a lesser class citizen than Sunday. It blew my mind. I couldn't deal with it. It was really, really hard to be awake, at that time. And I wasn't near as awake, as I am now. And I don't mean to sound like, I'm so awake or anything. But it was just difficult, there was a lot of, like, so many people just didn't get it. And it was hurting my mind, literally hurting my mind. But no, I never would have expected it. And I've second guessed what I've done a million times. I've replayed it in my mind. And, like, why did I do it like that? And, all these sorts of things. But I believe now that it was Providence, and I think that for whatever reason, this was thrust upon me. And how does a restaurant called Without Papers Pizza get destroyed for refusing to check papers? How is it that his fallback is POW pizza? It's crazy, and how is it that the only place in the world where that unscientific vaccine passport was found to be unlawful is Alberta? I went from having exactly zero chance of seeking any retribution to, I think, a certainty. It's a miracle. It really is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it really bothers me when you hear cases like yours, or tons of other people that I've talked, not just on the podcast, but in real life. Like, everybody does have a COVID story. Some are way worse than others. But the thing that is really disturbing to me is the amount of people that have such a short memory and have forgotten what it was like back then in those times, a couple of years ago, and willing to give a pass to all of the politicians that did it to them. Even vote for them in the case, like, we just had an election last night and Scott Moe won, and Scott Moe was one of the biggest tyrants, and so many people just give him a pass. So it's very frustrating to see, and I can't put myself in that position of people that are wanting to do that and support that, because it's like you're rewarding them for tyranny. You're not holding them to any account. So it's insane to hear people like you talk about your story, because it's like on the such an extreme tier to that. Another person from down east was Adam Skelly with what he was going through with his barbecue restaurant. I was watching both of you kind of go through the shit at the same time in different ways, and it's just like, I don't know what person could have a conscience and do this to another person, business, uproot their livelihood and completely decimate it. just so that they can have political brownie points, because that's essentially what it came down to. So, like with all that said, is there a direction to where this is starting to shift as far as the public opinion? Like, have you been able to talk to a lot of people and are like, yes, we understand it. This was wrong specifically for your situation?
Yes and no. I think it's a shame that the mass majority of Canadians continue to be asleep. But then conversely, literally every day somebody comes here, reaches out to me, and expresses their gratitude and tells me their story. And yeah, um, yeah, it was a weird time, that's for sure.
Yeah. And is it better in Windermere where you're at now?
I'd
Customer
say that
base and everything like that? Like, you've been able to recover?
I haven't been able to recover. I've been able to restart for sure. And I would say that the customer base in Windermere is very wide awake. I have a lot of very wide awake friends, but I also realize now that I sort of attract that. So, maybe I'm a little bit biased in my view. I would say that, if you were in Calgary or any rural or urban setting, I mean, the maybe 10% of the people are awake, maybe 15. I think once you escape the low vibration cities, that rises to maybe 35%. But there is a great many people who are still literally sleepwalking. It's disturbing, and I can't believe it. Yeah, it's like you still don't get it yet. Like, are you kidding me? Like I
What
just
more
it blows
evidence
my
do you
mind.
need?
What
Yeah.
more do you need, man? What more do you need? And I literally think that in Canada, that until CBC tells them, they ain't gonna wake up.
Yeah. I think there's going to be like the whole cognitive dissonance of it too. And how do you rectify and reconcile what so many people let slide, what so many people did to others, the decisions that they themselves had to make? It's like there's going to be a very big shift once the truth does come out and CBC tells them it's okay to think this way, or this is what actually happened, and the truth comes out. Like, there's going to be an awful lot of people that have some pretty uncomfortable conversations that they have to have with themselves.
Yeah, and I think it's going to be shocking news for a great many people. I can tell you myself that waking up and falling down the rabbit hole was quite the experience. And I think for most people it's going to blow their minds. I think when the harmful truth about the COVID injections starts to become more mainstream and more evident, who knows what's going to happen? I really don't. But it's weird. I was talking with somebody about it. And I'm just like, what percentage of Canadians do you think are aware of the vaccine harms? And I don't even think like we've gotten to 50% yet.
No, I don't think so either.
No, I don't think so either. And it's funny, like it's like, it's weird being unvaccinated in Canada, man. It really is. You only have these conversations within certain circles where that everyone is unvaccinated or or awake to the crimes. And I think a lot of people are going to be pissed. I had honestly thought by now that my very existence would cause people to be like, well, what the hell? Like, never injected, never got COVID, never complied. Like, don't you, like, you know what I mean? Like, it was literally
You should be dead.
in your mind. I should have been dead. Yeah, this is my fourth winter of death. I like to say. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, I'm just looking at how many people got like the first 2 shots in Saskatchewan. It was about 15% of the people didn't, and then it kind of tailed off. So, I mean, ultimately what we're looking at is there's only approximately 15% of the population that at that point in time was actually awake to this. And, through like lots of different processes, been able to find each other. And I'm sure you people and you eventually just find each other. People that are unvaccinated have the similar ideology as you. And it's the only way that we can kind of get through this, because for a long time, and this was to the government's benefit, everybody was off on an island. Everyone was alone. You didn't know who to turn to, how to find your people, and it played to their advantage perfectly. And that's how you can kind of essentially just keep stringing along this lie and keep baiting the carrot in front of people. It's honestly tragic, and there's obviously, I think, going to be a lot of problems down the road when people actually do figure it out.
Yeah, I think that's going to be a very startling day. I think most people are just going to prefer to stay in the matrix.
Yeah. That's the one difficulty too, is you can't, it's so difficult to wake, and this is just one issue, and we can't even agree on this single thing. We can't have objective truth about this single thing. How are we going to talk about all the other stuff's going on? And then they just call you a crazy conspirator when you're talking about chemtrails or the World Economic Forum, or even just like really basic stuff, that it's like, just look at the sky and tell me something's not normal about that.
But
but
you
yeah,
know what, man? That's what I've realized over the last 3 years. Being out at the space of mine, I spend a lot of time outside. My deck is literally outside. There is no inside, and I look at the stars a lot. And I came to realize, like, that's exactly why they want us in these city centers, and everything is that they just literally want to cloud your vision. They don't want you to see the sky, because if you look up, you will see the truth. It's really shocking, and that's just for so many things, and it's really been this beast system that is literally, that's just poisoned our minds for years and years, and hundreds of years, or who knows how long it's been, right? It's weird, man. It's weird.
I wanted to ask you, as well, as someone who owns a business, why don't you think that more people were willing to push back against this? Like, I'm a firm believer that the reason why this got so bad during COVID was because everybody complied. The compliance made it worse. Why do you think more business owners, I should say, went along with the lie?
Well, first, we were made example of swiftly, and fear. I couldn't believe it, man. Like, I literally, I said thought I was going to be number 600, and I sent and I wasn't on social media, like I wasn't, and I should have been, I probably would have known, like, oh, nobody's saying nothing, right? Like, I had just assumed this because, like, all the restaurateurs used to come to my place during COVID, like, we'd all close early, and it's like, what the hell are we going to do, right? It's like, oh, let's go over to Jesse's and have a beer, right? Like, we drank every single night of COVID, every night. You know what I mean? Like, it was just like, what the hell are you going to do, right? You're stranded in a room full of booze, and like the music's on and blah, blah, blah. But nobody came, like, nobody followed me, and I was running out of the trenches like, and I look behind me. It's just like, no one, no one, man. Like, I thought I was crazy. You know what I mean? Like, I couldn't believe it. I was just like, what is going on? You know what I mean? Like, it was crazy. And still to this day, you know what I mean? Not a single restaurant will speak or say my word or even mention the vaccine passport. It was a disgusting stain on the restaurant industry. It was like it was a disgusting perversion of hospitality. It was horrible. But nobody will dare mention my name. And this is the reality, And as I said, I've had to justify things in my mind a few times. I stood up, no one did, and things all of a sudden went crazy, and they went crazy for me, obviously, from my perspective of it, because I wasn't on the social media seeing whatever. But all of a sudden, the rallies in Calgary started to, like, really get big. And then, we came into January, and it's a trucker convoy, and I ended up in Coots, and, like, it was a glorious moment in time. And, even though I lost everything, I believe that what was stolen from me is going to be returned tenfold. And I'll look back on this, 20 years from now, and people will ask me what I did, and I'll be like, yeah, no, I was on the resistance, like, we literally saw the greatest hoax, the greatest psyop ever perpetrated on mankind, and I was part of the resistance, like, there we go, right? Like, there you go. So many people joined the government, the greatest civil rights movement in the history of Canada, and everyone I knew sided with corrupt government. Just a bizarre time, man. Bizarre time. So many Canadians missed out on such a beautiful thing because CBC lied to them, because CTV lied to them, because the Toronto Star lied to them, all of it, like, just all of it bought by Trudeau, and everybody, like, lapped it up, everything. It was just pure communism. You know what I mean? You think about it, it's like, you ask, like, how did they do this? So literally lock you in your house and then buy it, force everybody into debt, buy every corporation, buy everything, give them all money to toe the line. And that's exactly what they did. They gave everybody money to toe the line, and they sure as hell fucking towed it, man.
Yeah, 100%. And there's still evidence of that stuff, or I should not the money side of it, but like the mentality of it. There's still people talking about how and I think it's from a point of ignorance, is because there's still just so much in that trap. They think they're still virtuous. They still think that they're doing the right thing. They still think that COVID is a thing, that they're going to save grandma. It's like this. They've just strung it along so long, and that their brains are just completely broken.
They're
And there's
memory holding it now.
yeah, yeah. So is that a point where things got better? For your situation, was the Freedom Convoy?
For my mental situation, for sure. Yeah, like like I said, it was those 3 weeks when I was alone in the restaurant, like was weird. But from a financial point of view, no. But yeah, I mean, I don't know how you participated or if you participated, but it was the most memorable experience of my life. I was in
Mhm.
Coots for 2 weeks. I remember rolling up there. It was like day 2 or something like that, and just showing up in the middle. I was wearing like these crazy pink sunglasses and like these truckers like, who the hell is this guy, right? And yeah, it was. You think about it, it's like, okay, I'm just like some pizza dude, and now all of a sudden, like, we're holding the border, right? Like,
Yeah.
to the United States of America. Like, what? The border to the United States. Like, last I heard, well, I guess not anymore, the southern border, but the northern border is like hard to get through, right? Like, yeah, crazy time, man.
Hmm. Yeah, it seems like Coots was the party place. Is where everybody was
No,
kind of.
no, 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 no. I don't want to say
Well,
that
I
it was a
mean,
party place, but it turned
the
into a big event for sure. Yeah,
the Danger Cats came down, did comedy, like
yeah,
it just seems
yeah.
like they were having, like, because like you're saying, like, I'm not sure what I was experiencing. Regina was fairly boring. There's a couple big days of where trucks were going up and down the main street there. But it wasn't nearly the same. And there's a couple people that went down to our border crossings, but the Scott Moe government jumped on that and kiboshed that real quick. But yeah, like it was Coots and Ottawa where it seemed to be it was the main stage for literally everything, and obviously we know how that all went down. But yeah, it just seems that like those were the places where, yeah, you're right, like this is something that you can tell your kids, like, what did you do during COVID? Well, this is what I did, this is where I was. Lots of people have documented it. And I've kind of said this as well, just because I started my show in October of 2021, so I was kind of just starting up when this was all kind of coming to fruition. A couple of my like very early on episodes was during the convoy, and I was commenting on it from my place in Saskatchewan. But I've said this multiple times: is there's a record of where I stood, the positions that I held throughout this entire process. I have it documented. I've documented all of this stuff, right? There's a record of it. And I think that so many people, when, they finally do find out the truth, they're going to scrub their social media. They're going to create lies. They're probably going to say that they're unvaccinated to be able to get dates and trick people into that. Like there's going to be a real negative side to this dishonesty that's happened. But again, like I can stand proud and you can stand proud and many other people can stand proud and say, this is where I was during when all of this went down.
No, exactly. I honestly I think that the Coots border blockade was the greatest civil rights protest in the history of Canada. Its antagonist, the vaccine passport, was rescinded directly because of it.
Mhm.
And yeah, I'll forever, ever, ever be proud of my involvement in it. And I thank those 4 boys that took it on the chin, for the freedom movement. Those poor
Mhm.
boys set up by the government, the RCMP, absolutely disgraceful, serving 4 years, the first 2 years in solitary confinement in literally like those remand centers that are like the Shawshank Redemption North. It's disgusting what they did, absolutely disgusting. Poor Archer Pawlowski, though, put in remand for
Mhm.
50 days, solitary confinement, sleep on the floor, take away your meals, darkness. Like, it's just crazy. These guys are sadists, man,
Mhm.
sadists. And I hope that one day, those police that took part in these crimes against humanity will yeah, will hang their head. I hope.
Mhm. Yeah, it's rough, and people really don't understand the severity and the historical impact of what's going on here. And again, it's just all lies on top of lies for everything too. Um, with when you're talking about going to jail and all this stuff and charges being laid, what was your situation after your restaurant got shut down? What were the charges laid for you, and was the whole lawsuit? How did that go for the last 2 years? or for that 2-year period, I guess.
So they shut me down, and I was like, oh my god, first of all, what happened? And then I didn't know what to do, and then people started, giving me contacts, and people started reaching out to me. That's when it all sort of began for me. And somebody gave me Leighton Gray's number, and I phoned him up or sent him an email, whatever it was, and it was like, hey, will you represent me? This is my story. And he was like, you know what, Jesse, I appreciate what you've done. I agree with what you've done. Unfortunately, you have no chance. There's an immunity clause written into the Public Health Act, Section 66.1, which essentially gives these demons blanket immunity. They could do anything they want. Dina Hinshaw could have literally just shot unvaccinated people on the street, and all she would have had to say was that it was for the greater good, and everything would be fine. The wording was literally by any means necessary, you come to a very sobering realization when you literally lose your life's work, and that you just like you got no chance. But the weird thing is, like, I never believed it. I always kept hope. I always kept believing. In July of 21, the Ingram decision came out, and I went from having exactly zero chance of suing them and successfully to, I think, 100% chance. And in that decision, it was discovered that Dina Hinshaw was nothing but a puppet to the Jason Kenney regime, and that all that was happening place is that they were literally taking polls and asking a scared public as to what they would like to do. That science literally just came from polling and, let's get more votes, basically. It was political science. That, in effect, made all of the mandates that were issued by her, which was all of them, ultra vires is the term, ultra vires. And what that essentially means is that they were never, in fact, law, so patently illegal. It's the only place in the world where that's happened. I think will be the only place in the world that's happened. A chink in the armor was discovered, and they've since gone and remedied that. All she had to do was say that, oh no, like only me had the power. And you think about how dystopian that is. They had literally given this chick, this unqualified paper doctor that never seen a patient in her life, to given her the power of Caesar. That she could do anything that she wanted, and it was only her. It was only her that was to decide the fate of all Albertans. Crazy. It's absolutely crazy that authority has not been repealed yet. But she essentially threw Jason Kenney under the bus, and I try to think, why did she do that? What? And I think that she literally wants to give herself arm's length, that she now is aware of what she's done, the harms that she's caused, and she just wants to distance herself from that scene. But now, every single minister of health has been told that, hey, baby, when we get you up on that stage, and they're going to go on the stage eventually, all of them are going to go on the stage. You just make sure it was your fault, all right? Make sure you say it was you, all right? Make sure you say, So yeah, a miracle. It's literally a miracle, and it's I literally just left my life to God, and I was like, there's nothing I can do. I need help that's beyond the help of man, and I threw myself upon the mercy of God, and lo and behold, here we are.
Mm-hmm. I remember there's a press conference with her where I can't remember the exact wording, but basically the reporter had asked because all of the mandates were removed and the stuff, and it was still late in the game, and someone had asked are you still coming out here with a mask when you do these conferences? Are you actually afraid of COVID? It was something along those lines, and she had admitted that yes, I am super afraid of this. She was in her own realm of psychosis during all of this stuff too. I think much as many people were, either that or they're just the lies are so deep seated.
They probably just kept her locked up, you know what I mean, and let her out for the press conferences. Here you go, baby.
Well, and you had
it's real bad, isn't it? You're locked up. That's why it's COVID. We're keeping you safe, sweetie pie. Just write these rules, you know what I mean? And that's it. We'll bring you some champagne later.
But was it that there's health ministers or top doctors in Ontario that said I just read off the script, or maybe it was BC. There's so many of today. These there's so many of these gaps that they're just how one do people not understand this? It's bullshit from the get go. These people know it. They're ultimately lying to you. And people can't kind of get on that other side of that. There was something you're mentioning, Leighton Gray. He posted when was this? Yesterday. He was going through the I think the Bill of Rights or whatever
Yeah.
that Alberta's putting through, and basically saying that they can have that same clause that allowed them to do everything that they did. Um, when was this? Yeah, the rights and freedoms recognized and declared by this act are subject to only reasonable limits prescribed by law and can
Yeah.
be demonstrably justified in a free and democratic Alberta. So Alberta is putting in legislation that removes all of the rights that they're allowing the people to have by able to subvert it for whatever justification that is. So when you're talking about her basically being judge, jury, and executioner for everything like that, they're the Alberta government is actively still putting in such legislation that is oppressive to the people. And someone like Danielle Smith is going to be praised as, I mean, she's up for leadership review. We'll see how that goes, but it will be praised as, one of these based conservative people, yet they're ultimately still exerting tyranny over the people.
I think that she's going to get called out on it. When she was touting it and hyping it, she didn't mention the Section 1. What a scam that is, right? It's like, these are your rights, bro. But unless it's too dangerous out there, then we're gonna take these rights away from you. But we'll give them back to you when it's not too dangerous anymore. Like an absolute sham,
Yeah.
And it's written into this. It's garbage. It's literally garbage. It's discretions and privileges. That's all that it is.
Yeah. It puts the Charter of Rights and Freedoms to complete disgrace, that clause being in there, let alone now you have Alberta wanting to look like they're taking a little bit of sovereignty back from the federal government, but they're playing the exact same game. Saskatchewan's doing the same thing. Like all of these so-called conservatives are not actually there. And furthermore, like they're the big problem during the COVID times as well. Obviously it wasn't Smith, it was Kenny, but she's Kenny in a skirt, right? There's not a whole lot of change overall that is coming from our government. There's still that Scott Moe got elected in a majority last night. This wasn't a referendum on his actions during COVID. He won the election by basically fear mongering and saying, if you don't vote for me, then you're going to get the NDP. And remember how bad things were back then. Like it's this ugly, disgusting game politics.
It's absolutely disgusting, and I don't remember it being anything like this when I was younger. Here in British Columbia, I mean, the commies got in, like, literally, I'm like, what? Dominion voting and mail-in ballots, and 2 weeks to count it and waiting for more to come in. I'm just like, are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? Again? And these guys that literally fucking locked you in your house, muzzled your children, forced you to inject poison to save you from nothing, and you let them in again. And I just like I can't understand it.
Yeah, Canadians are being held hostage, and we're experiencing a degree of Stockholm syndrome that I don't think
unprecedented.
Yeah, that's the best word. Unprecedented amount of Stockholm syndrome. We are literally just kissing ass to our oppressors and saying just thank you for being
govern
our
me
leaders.
harder, daddy.
Yeah. Well, and that's you hear stories about the perception of Canadians as being like these hard people, and it's like when times get tough, the Canadians get going and stuff like that. But when we were faced with the littlest bit of resistance and adversity, we caved so fastly or so quickly. It didn't matter what it was, whether it was the mandates. And I'm more talking about the people, not just the politicians. But as soon as the mandates came in, it's like, yeah, we just got to abide. We just got to abide. And they just kept on kicking the can down the road. And we literally built a prison for ourselves by our own making. And it was basically
And
unprompted. It was
Trudeau's
just
making and his masters as well, though.
Yeah, no, I'm not saying that there isn't a directive to it, and it was all played by like in a coordinated plan. But it's just like it's amazing that not enough Canadians actually took a look at this and said no. It was as simple as that. It could have been over a lot quicker.
Fear is a pretty powerful weapon, and they instilled fear into people, and anybody that dared dissent was met with destruction. And I didn't realize it at the time either, but I'll never forget the censorship that existed.
Yeah.
In Canada at that time, it was so hard to get a message out. I remember being part of a rally in Calgary, and I think there must have been 30,000 of us going down 17th Avenue. It stretched for who knows how long, like 2 kilometers, right? And I phoned my buddy up, who was just fast asleep, and I'm like, hey man, like, are you watching this? Watching what, man? Watching
Yeah.
what, man? Do you know what I mean? Like, no idea. No idea. Literally marched right to the middle of town, and it was just, it was kept suppressed. And anybody that tweeted it, that tweet was taken down. Their account was deleted. Who knows, right? Like, thought police. It was just, it was crazy, 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 man. And I think
Well,
that most Canadians just you couldn't fathom it. You know what I mean? You learned
yeah.
to trust your government over, the entire indoctrination side of your life. Yeah, it was unbelievable, right?
Yeah. Canada is a communist country, but you know what? Honestly, that type of censorship is still happening. I had an
Mm-hmm.
episode I did, or a stream I did recently, removed from YouTube for just talking in generalities about COVID. They didn't give me a strike or nothing, which is new. Because I earlier this year I had one removed and I got a strike for doing it. I was talking about Dan Hartman and his son Sean. But no, like there's still that lots of that stuff still happening. I mean, Joe Rogan's complaining about YouTube removing his episode that he did with Trump. Like all this stuff is keep happening. And then to furthermore, the censorship specifically in Canada is about to get ramped up as well with Bill C-63. That'll basically be the end of of our country. If we can't speak freely, unlike the
Yeah.
Americans, we don't have a Second
I'll
Amendment
be.
to protect
I
that
think I
right.
might be getting out. Yeah.
Yeah. No, it'll be so oppressive. It'll be this country will be an absolute mess. And I'm this is because it's so recent. I'm going to go back to the election last night. We have 4 more years in Saskatchewan to where we can get another kick at the can at having a government change. And in that point in time, because Scott Moe lost so much ground to the NDP, he's going to be shifting left. So we have to wait 4 more years where we have another political opportunity to be able to make our voices heard, per se, to be able to get some type of normalcy back in our legislature. So our Saskatchewan government is gone. Alberta's has a little bit there. I think that you guys are clinging on to a little bit more, but we have very big problems here in Canada. And once we're unable to talk, it's over.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. I went through Regina on the way to. I was going. Anyways, I ended up in Winnipeg instead of Ottawa. But I spent a night. I slept in the legislature grounds of the in Regina, and I thought for sure that there was going to be something there. It was a Friday night, and I
Mhm.
woke up the next morning, and there was like nothing. And then I drove around the town, and I was like, oh my god, like Regina has fallen. Like this is a
Yeah,
zombie
there's
apocalypse.
during that time there was basically one big day of protest at the ledge, and that was about it. And I was messaging a friend. I was like, to go back the next weekend. I'm like, hey man, like it's are you? I'm gonna be there. Come hang out or whatever, because he was there the previous weekend. And he's like, no, Scott Moe said he's gonna remove the mandates. We've won. It's all over. I'm just like, dude, it's not even close to over. That was before Trudeau had sent in the RCMP to break up Ottawa and all of the other stuff. But yeah, no, the Regina had basically one weekend and then everybody else just went right back to sleep.
Yeah, yeah, I couldn't believe the farmers, man. I was just like, oh, there's no way these farmers are gonna, fall for it, but they did. And you talk about the protests. I'll tell you something else that we seem to like, blame the vaccinated for everything, but there was a great many of unvaccinated who never participated as well. I have an interesting stat for you. There's 100,000 restaurants in Calgary, or sorry, in Canada. And if you were to just do the math, what I guess is the unvaccinated, because I don't believe the real number, but let's say, 20% of them are unvaccinated. So that's 20,000 restaurants. 20,000 restaurants literally turned away their own at their
Mhm.
restaurant. I know of so many unvaccinated that never participated in any of the rallies or, did anything because you were afraid. And I think, the vaccinated were perhaps even in a way, more afraid than the unvaccinated the unvaccinated were more afraid than than vaccinated because, you were afraid you were going to get called out. And then who knows what was going to happen, right? Like,
Yeah.
it was a crazy time, man. And I understand why, the people want to memory hole it, right? Like, it was traumatic to a degree that I don't think people will understand for decades. Do you know what I mean? Like it just these children that had to suffer through it, like the scars of this are going to be seen for literally decades in this nation.
I agree. Yeah, my son was born during COVID and yeah, we sheltered him from as much of that stuff as
Beautiful.
possible.
Yeah, your son was blessed then.
Yeah, like even just because I know this from talking with people, it stunted their educational development. People, the
Mm,
kids that were really young, because they weren't able to see lips and stuff like that, because everybody had their masks on, right? So, but he never saw us like that. You know what I mean? So it's just like
good.
he saw smiles and love. He didn't see
Yeah.
something in front of his
Yeah.
parents' faces and
God
stuff like
bless
that.
America.
So no, like I took a lot of steps to make sure that that's, and even people that would come over, they're like, I want to wear a mask. I'm like, get the fuck out.
No, no,
You're not
get
coming there.
out.
Like,
Get out.
so no, I agree. Like, and it just kind of goes to show how much the left will eat. I'm pejoratively saying the
A
left, but
mob.
the left will eat themselves. Is that kept a lot of people in line, even people that were maybe on the fence or did it reluctantly. It kept them in line very well. Yeah, and I
Yeah,
agree.
yeah, yeah, yeah. An exceptionally good tool, you know. And when I look back on this, and I'm, I literally think that Satan, has devised this whole thing. I just like no
Hmm.
single human could be smart enough to have done this. But yeah, whoever orchestrated this, it was absolute genius. On a million different levels.
Hmm.
It was the greatest psyop of all time.
Yeah. There's been a couple bad ones over the last 100 years, but this one I think is by far the worst, purely because we had the means to be able to get the full story out. We had doctors that were being censored and not allowed to talk.
Yeah,
We had the internet to be able to, at our fingertips, to be able to exchange information. We had tons of people being able to actually talk and express their opinions. Whereas lots of other historical events, it was we didn't have the reach that we did. Now you look at Twitter, yes, obviously censoring posts and stuff like that. Like there's lots of elements to it. But even with all of that said, we are leaps and bounds through over just the flow of information specifically. We should have been on top of this a lot quicker, and it took. I would say probably we're still not through it. Alberta Health Services is doing some sketchy shit still with COVID. Um,
yeah. They shut
Saskatchewan,
down. They shut down Angels Cafe. Vindictive bastards. Angels Cafe is suing them for the water main closures. And what did they do? They came in and shut them down. Made up some bogus, health violations that they never did. One of the cleanest, most professional restaurants in Calgary, opened for 20 years successfully. And they're like these guys. They're the Gestapo. They're the
yeah.
Gestapo. It's like they just come in. They destroy you. They destroy you without recourse. They don't give anything
Mhm.
about you. It's crazy. You look at like what happened to me. Like without adjudication, you just shut me down. You know what I mean? And that's it. That's it. Right? It's crazy. And these
Well,
guys need to be like curtailed back. That whole institution needs to be destroyed. The whole mantra of public health. You know what I mean? Which is just a mind ploy as well. It's like, where I get injected to protect you. It's like, what the hell are you talking about, man?
mhm.
There is no such thing as public health. No such thing. You look after yourself, baby. You know what I mean? And let that person worry about him.
Well, and even if you look at the cops, I think the cops were the biggest roadblock to this all as well, because they're the ones enforcing it. And there's been so many stories of people saying like, "Oh, I completely agree with what you're doing, but stick out your arms and let me cuff you," or then they might have maybe not attended or not broke up the front lines in Ottawa or something like that, but they're covering shifts for the people that did. Like the institution of policing, uh, support for that, I think, is at an all-time low. Then you look at Alberta Health Services or Saskatchewan Health Services. Saskatchewan is still isolating people for this stuff, private rooms and all this stuff. Like this stuff is still going on. The bureaucrats, the media is probably the worst perpetrator of all with this, with their lies and smears and destroying people in the court of public opinion. Like there's a lot of people just outside of the political apparatus that need some serious accountability for what they did. And the longer, like I said, Saskatchewan voted for more of Mo's oppression, and we got four more years to where, again, longer time period to get memory hold. These people are going to get away scot free, and it's an absolute disgrace that we've let this happen.
An absolute disgrace. Yeah, and sometimes I think like, this just like the Canadians can't be this stupid, and you look at this election interference, and so has there been a single province that has ousted its COVID tyrant yet? Not one. Has there? Has there been one? I don't think so.
Uh, I don't think so. Blaine Higgs just lost. I think he was around during the COVID times, but they went further left. It wasn't like there's accountability on the right. You know what I mean? So it's like,
Yeah.
yeah, he lost his seat, but they went more progressive. So that's not going to be any level of accountability. Whereas like if there was a more conservative party um, in New Brunswick, um, to do something, or a party that actually wanted to do it, but everyone's going more progressive, it seems. So no, there's going to be no accountability to any of this.
No, yeah, except in Alberta. I'm gonna hold
Yeah,
you.
I guess Alberta would be the exception because you got rid of Kenny. But I mean, maybe Scott Moe will be up for a leadership review, maybe. But still, it's not. They're not gonna. They're not gonna go and press for accountability on this. It's the COVID is going to be just completely ignored, except for people like yourself who are obviously fighting the machine. You know what? That's probably a good segue into it too. So your lawsuit against Calgary, Alberta, and Dina Hinshaw. What's the status of that? What are you suing for? And kind of what's the status of your lawsuit there?
So if I was to make an informed guess, I would say that maybe we're about 65% along the way. Uh, um, it's called a statement of claim when you sue somebody in Canada, and basically it's like, you hurt my feelings and I want this in return. And so we filed that. I had expected that they were just going to try to make a deal with me in order to avoid me setting precedents, since they have like literally no case whatsoever. I upheld the law; they broke it. The vaccine passport was ruled illegal. It's never happened before ever. But lo and behold, they came back with a statement of defense, and I realize now that what they're trying to do is just wage lawfare against me, and try to bleed as much money as they can from me. And then when we get closer to trial, that maybe they're going to try to make a deal with me, or maybe they're going to go to trial. It's literally like my I worry so much about a corrupted court system when it comes to the COVID narrative. And, it's just me. It's just me. I'm the only person in Canada, and possibly the world, that is up against the vaccine passport, who has a chance to win against the vaccine passport, and yeah. I hope I'm able to set precedent, and I think I have a really, 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 really good chance to. But what they've done is really quite. When they came back with the statement of defense, at first my heart kind of sank. Right, I was like, oh my god, these guys want to fight, and then I realized that I just got so much fight left in me. You bastards, you're never going to get me. And I started reading it over and over and over again, and I was just like, yeah, there's a reason why you guys are working for the government. You're hacks. You're literal hacks. The statement of defense is shoddy. Like, I could have done it better myself. And you start like quoting all these like provisions that have made to the Municipal Government Act, and the Municipal Government Act. I'm like, what the hell is the Municipal Government Act? I go in and look at it. It's another 1,000-page document
Yeah.
that you didn't know that existed, with 783 or 666 new laws in it. And I'm like, what's this? And what they've done is, after my stance, and I really truly believe like it revealed a chink in the armor, and they've basically gone in now. And I told you how the law being found ultra vires or unlawful has switched to making it in my favor. Well, they've basically gone in so that in the future, if and when they get caught enacting a tyrannical law that that destroys people, it's found to be unlawful. All they're going to do is say like, yeah, well, you know what, we were just doing our best and we thought it was for the better good, so it's still good. Like, literally, it's just like, what? So they could do whatever they want. When I look at that, and I'm just like, all right, like what's next? What's next? And you got to, in my opinion, understand that that was just like a test, that whole COVID thing, and these guys got a hard on for it. They're just like, oh my god, right? Like, look how well that worked, right? Like, yeah, give me some more baby blood, Marsha. You know what I mean? Like, it's crazy, right? Like,
Yeah.
crazy, man, crazy. And yeah. So let's hope that I win, man. Because if I do, maybe that will get struck down. I hope that. I honestly, I've been saying this forever and ever and ever, man. I will fight with every drop of energy that I have, with only one goal: that Albertans are never segregated again.
You made a pretty good point, and it's something that I for sure think is on the table. But do you think they're going to try something like this again, or do you think they kind of jump the shark and they can't risk doing another thing like this. Like they'll have to try something completely separate to be able to usher in whatever mechanism that they want from the globalist perspective. But do you think we could see something similar, or no, they're not going to try something like this again?
I definitely think they'll try something like this again. It was proven so successful. I think personally that it's going to sort of morph its way, and the next thing that they're going to enact is going to be a digital currency. It's already essentially been enacted, without anybody knowing it. You look at a kid today; he goes and buys a pack of gum, he pays for it on his credit card or on his debit card, and every transaction monitored. That's going to lead to the social credit score, and the reintroduction of vaccine passports, and the Chinese communist system essentially. Everything monitored, all of it's touted as for your safety. But yeah, they'll eat it up. They'll eat it up. Not like there's literally my restaurant here, I only accept cash. I swear to God, I'm the only restaurant in Canada that only accepts cash. And they tell you like forever and ever, it's like, oh, you're stealing. It's like, what do you mean? What do you mean I'm stealing? Like I sold you a pizza, you gave me some money. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I didn't have to wait for 3 days for some middleman, like God knows where, to take his 5% and then give it to me, like 3 days later. I'm like, oh, it's for your convenience. It's like, what's so convenient about this, right? But again, they've sold everybody hook, line, and sinker. These kids literally don't have any cash, and I think that's the next thing that's coming. There's an old adage: gold is the currency of kings, silver is the currency of wise men, cash is the currency of peasants, and debt is the currency of slaves. And you look at what happened now with this generation. They get credit cards immediately. These kids are getting credit cards in high school and such, and they literally become debt slaves. And every transaction sold, everything monitored. I think that's what's coming. 15-minute cities. Yeah, slavery. I think that's what's coming. Slavery sold as freedom.
Yeah, that's an easy way to sum up the direction of that Canada's going. I mean, Pierre Poilievre recently said that he's against a mandatory digital ID. The keyword being there is mandatory. I think that's the pacifier that he is able to
That's right.
sell
That's
his
right.
base.
It's going to be people are just going to opt into it.
Yeah, for sure. They'll do the exact same thing. Well, the vaccine isn't mandatory, but we're just going to cut off all of your livelihood until you say yes.
They're going to do it as well, I think, with your taxes. I had to go get my passport renewed last week, and like a jug of milk, like this thing just expired out of nowhere. Like oh, I got to renew it again. Like okay, and you go there, and it's like 5 years, this price, and 10. Like what do you mean? Like why just give me the 10-year? Like why are you offering people just 5 years? But they wouldn't take cash there. The government of Canada would not accept government of Canada money at one of their offices, right? And as soon as I saw that, I'm just like, yeah, it's coming. And that what they'll do is like they'll sell it for you got to have the digital ID to do your taxes. People are laughing up, and it's like, oh, we got a carbon credit for you, bro, but you just got to get a digital ID. You know what I mean? Like they'll do it the exact same way they did the COVID. They'll just buy it with literally printed money, and each dollar deflates the value of the previous one. And
does it not say like legal tender on these bills?
Not anymore.
No.
No.
So yeah, they're under no obligation to actually accept that as payment. Before, if you walked in with cash, like cash is king.
Yeah, legal tender for all debts, public and private.
Yeah, so they have to accept it, and even like there's technically the law around it is if you offer cash for it and they refuse it, the goods are still yours.
Yeah, it's crazy, man. Crazy. Buy as much silver and gold as you can. Those dollar bills that you're holding in your pocket are going to be relics of the past for sure. Get yourself silver, and when you sell it, the government won't get their greasy little hands on whatever increases they get on it. And you carry it on yourself. It's not in the bank. Like, yeah, those days are coming soon, I think.
Yeah, I also recommend people invest in brass too.
For sure.
Wanted to talk about Danielle Smith as well, because she's up for a leadership review. What do you think her track record is going to be? Do you think she's going to get replaced as leader of the UCP? Do you think that I talked to Tarek Elnaga, and he said that that's basically Alberta's election is who's the leader of the UCP, because there's no way in hell that they're going to go back to the NDP.
You don't think so? They got the clown Nenshi up there, man. Yeah, like he's pretty popular still.
And the difference between Alberta and Saskatchewan. Alberta has more urban seats and Saskatchewan has more rural. Saskatchewan, I believe, is the last place in Canada that actually has that relationship. So
Probably.
the cities, Regina and Saskatoon, are really upset at all of the rural ridings that went and voted for the Sask party. But no, I think that's the biggest caveat to it is, yeah, if Neshi and the NDP show up in the cities and they aren't able to the UCP isn't able to take a couple seats there and keep that balanced power. But no, I do agree with Tarek when he said that that's their election. I think Albertans are smart enough to realize that they shouldn't go back to the NDP. It just is a silly thing, and I think Neshi's kind of lost lots of his popularity that he had when he was mayor of Calgary. So I don't know, but as far as Danielle Smith goes, do you think that she's been doing a good job after she took over from Kenny?
Uh, meet the new boss, same as the old boss. I don't. I what has she done? There's been no apologies, even. Everyone's like, oh,
Hmm.
she didn't apologize. She simply made a statement that the unvaccinated were the most discriminated group she's ever seen in her
Well,
lifetime.
then she walked it back
Pure
2 days
fact, and
later.
then walked it back,
Yeah.
and you think about it, with that passport being ruled unlawful. So the whole premise of the passport was that healthy people were spreading disease. This is a very, very serious crime. Like Nuremberg type crimes. This isn't like
Hmm.
stealing a pack of gum at the corner store. Like, this is bad crimes. You literally segregated 1 million healthy Albertans illegally. Said that they were dirty, and it's common knowledge now. You know what I mean? That we aren't dirty. Like, none of us are dying. We're all healthy. Like, all the case, right? But that myth, that lie, that defamation is still being maintained, even with her. So her simple
Hmm.
act of not being able to apologize for a crime, a crime. I understand why Scott Moe hasn't apologized, because it wasn't declared a crime in Saskatchewan. But in Alberta, it was declared a crime. And these guys can't apologize. They still think you're a dirty, unvaccinated scum, literally.
Hmm. Well, and I want to go back to what Light and Gray had kind of said too, because in her recent announcement for Alberta's Bill of Rights, they had said that there's bodily autonomy rights within there, and specifically, I think it's alluding to the vaccines essentially.
Yeah.
We'll see how that all. I haven't been able to see the legislation yet, so we'll see what's actually in there. But what Light and Gray had kind of exposed is that they have that clause that removes them from actually enforcing any of that stuff or that being a right, because they can remove that if the government deems it right. So that's really just empty words at that point. If you were to even deem that along the lines of apology, which I personally don't think so.
I think it's just a yeah, a veiled attempt at yeah, who knows what the hell they're doing. But no, it's not an apology whatsoever. And that document is a sham, as far as I'm concerned. It's not worth the paper that it's written on. With the Section 1,
Mhm.
it's still like, I'm like, really, like, people are gonna fall for it, but people are
They
gonna
will.
fall for it, right? Oh,
Yeah.
no, it's for our safety, bro. Like, it blows my mind, man.
Hmm. Yeah. It seems that the West here is at a very difficult part in its history. BC taking 2 weeks to count the ballots, and then the
2
NDP kind
weeks.
of gets in there. Like,
Mhm.
we're in tough times here, and I think people are still just they got the blinders on, and they're just what's on TV tonight, and that's their only focus. It's
Yeah.
a sad state of affairs, and I certainly never would have like. I would for sure make fun if I saw this happening in Eastern Canada. I would for sure be making fun of them for being so stupid. But seeing it in my backyard and being as pro West as I am, it's very disheartening to see the events that have taken place, not just since COVID, but even just more recently, where we are completely captured by a communist takeover here, and people are walking into it because some people just don't want to be called racist, and that's what it comes down to. That's enough fear. Some people are afraid of voting their values or being ostracized or all of these different things. We've become a chicken shit nation. We honestly have, and I hate to say that because we should have more pride in our people.
Well, don't worry. They're going to replace us all, so we don't have to worry about that for much longer.
Yeah. if it's Jeets or if it's a technocracy or something else, they want to get rid of us for sure.
Like I don't talk about that issue very much, but look at people are like Trudeau's not going to win. I'm like, what are you talking about? What are you talking about? He's not going to win. Like, I think he's going to win. It's like, why? Well, and he imports all his votes. So 1 million last year, 1.5 million next year, and you look at Canada. Just in a very short period of time, we've gone from a population of 30 million to 40 million, 40 million plus, and I'm becoming a minority in this country, and I have no ill will, no prejudice, to anybody that immigrates to this country. I understand why you did so. I'm a product of immigration as well. Most of us are, but there is an agenda, coming in, and it's weird. When they talk about Alberta, it's like, oh, we have to have this many people in Alberta. Why? Like, well, why? Why do we need that many people? And like, I think that what we should start doing is just having babies, man. You know what I mean? Like having babies, get off that fucking birth control and just have babies. Make as many babies as you can. If I could go back in time, like 20 or whatever it was, I would have like 50 babies. I'd register none of them with the government and unvaccinated all of them. You know what I mean? And just have like this army of like babies that just like fight the system, and everybody does the same thing. Next thing you know, we're free.
Yeah. Well, I read something, and I've heard this point before. I read this something today, and it was that immigration should not replace our natural born birth rate.
That's right.
The amount of people
that we import, fucking, man. Time to start fucking.
I don't think we can fuck our way out of this, but
we can't fuck our way out of this, man.
We need the deportations first, but I would say like and even think, because that's going to be Canada's birth rate. I think it's like 1.2 kids per year per person, or whatever the case may be.
Per couple, yeah, and you need to have over 2 to sustain a population.
So it's like 1.2, but that includes all of the immigrants that are here having kids as well. So of our native population of actual Canadians, it's probably much less than that. So let's say it's even half. It's even half per couple.
That's right.
We should have less than half coming in. We should never.
What do you think this whole transgender thing is? You know what I mean? Like, people that cut off their dicks can't have babies, right? Like, it's just like, the whole thing is tied together, right?
Oh, for sure. Yeah, like the depopulation agenda is it's out there. COVID was part of it. The transgender ideology stuff is a part of it. The immigration side of it is part of it. Even we're economic slaves. Economics has become a pattern of warfare for the West, and they use it to literally enslave us. They make it so difficult. Yeah. They make it so financially difficult that we are unable to actually produce, because we can't afford to, because we're having to pay money to be able to subsidize the people that they're bringing here to replace us. And then they call us liars and conspiracy theorists and say that white replacement isn't a thing. It's like, just look, like, you prove to me that it isn't.
100%, man. 100% make you feel guilty for things that you never did. Like, it's just,
yeah.
No white guilt. No white guilt.
100%. Yeah. Well, that's probably actually a really good place to stop. We kind of hit all the points there. But I wanted to give you the opportunity to plug anything that you got going on and where people can find more from you online.
Yeah, of course. I'm predominantly on Twitter at WOPizza4, so WOPIZZA 4. I have my beautiful restaurant here in Windermere, British Columbia. We do Detroit-style pizzas. I make the thickest, gnarliest pizzas in all of Canada. Really, yeah, they're unreal. You can just go on Google and take a look.
Well, I've seen your pizzas. I might be coming skiing in that valley, the Canada Valley. So
you better come.
Maybe I'll hit you up there.
Yeah, I hope you do, man. I hope you do. It's my first time ever in the kitchen, and I love it. It's been a passion of mine. And thirdly, if you feel so kind, you can donate to my Give, Send, Go to help me take on the tyrannical Jason Kenney, Dina Hinshaw regime, and hopefully ensure that Albertans are never segregated again.
That's fantastic. I don't have it linked in the description box, but I will update that with your Give, Send, Go so that people can find that there. So check out the
WAP
description
versus AHS. You'll see it on the description.
Okay, fantastic. And final message for Canadians.
Don't give up. Realize that this is a spiritual war. Get good with God. Raise your vibration. Keep love alive. And make as many babies as you can.
Absolutely. All right, Jesse, thank you so much for coming on tonight. It was a great chat, and I'll probably be, hopefully in your neck of the woods over the winter here if I go skiing, and I'll come stop by your place for some pizza.
Thank you, sir. Pizza to the people.
Okay, take care. Good luck with
Bye.
your lawsuit.
Thank you. I'm going to win.
I hope so. Hey, bye. All right, there's another one in the books there. Not a whole lot of announcements for what's coming up here. The first stream in November, I will be doing an election stream again. So I'm going to be covering the 2024 United States election. And just like the Saskatchewan election stream that I did last night, it will be exclusive to Rumble. I have a panel of people coming on to talk about that. It is, for lack of a better term, it is an exciting time. What's going down in the states, whether you follow politics or not, or support Trump or not, it is going to be, a major event that will shift the tides of history. I do believe that. So covering that, have some people on to talk about that, and then the rest of the schedule for next month. I'm going to put up on my social media on Friday. So check out my Instagram, Twitter, or Telegram for updates for the show that way. And then if you want to support the show, you can do so via e-transfer. I have some other ways listed in the description box as well. Social media links for my Substack are also in the description, and tons of other stuff to check out where you can follow me and follow Jesse as well. But that's it for this one. Have a good rest of your week. I will see you next Tuesday for the election stream. Find your friends and stay free.